Good morning. It's the morning of day 9, and I'm excited to see how my leaven has turned out from last night. I'm going to bake a loaf of bread, my first gluten-free loaf with this starter.
So here is the leaven that I created last night, and I'm going to teach you all about this. Don't worry, on day 14 and 15 of our journey together. But a leaven is basically where you take your starter out of the refrigerator and you take out a little amount and you feed it, get it active. When it reaches its peak, then you take that amount of starter and you mix it with flour and water, depending on what your formula, your recipe calls for. And this is called your leaven. And you basically just leave it in a nice warm spot to ferment until it gets nice and bubbly and active. It's as simple as that. It is used to leaven or to lift your dough and give it that power and rise that you're looking for. So it really is just your starter that's been fed at room temperature. We just differentiate the names, and the starter is maintained in your refrigerator, taken out and used to make your leaven. So here I made 2 different leavens, one with our brown rice flour starter and one with our sorghum flour starter. And you can see they're perfect. They've got a nice dome on the top. They've got that quilted appearance, almost like they've been blown up. They've got lots and lots of bubbles. I think they're both at their peak activity and perfectly ready to mix our dough. Now, this is why I say, though, that our starters are not ready to bake dough yet, because they just are in a perfect condition, it looks like, right now. And that's when I use them and mix the dough. And I did exactly the same thing as I always do. And they just didn't give the rise. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do this starting on day 14. I will show you a picture here, though, of how this bread turned out. It just doesn't have the rise yet. Like I said, we're still building our yeast colony, and it's just not quite strong enough to give that oomph that we need it to. So if you're dying to try it out, please do, but I'd recommend waiting until day 14 and 15 where you'll get the awesome rise you're looking for.
Let's also check and see how our starters are doing this morning. I hope you had a wonderful sleep and are ready to get going this morning. All right, so here's my daughter making funny faces, and we've got our 3 starters, and look at Bob, our gluten starter. He is finally doubled in size. Betty, our brown rice starter, I think we may have missed our peak rise there, but that's okay. She's just hungry. And Susie, our sorghum sourdough starter, is doubled in size and actually looks, you can see on the side here, looks like it's fallen as well. So we've missed the peak rise. If we were going to bake with it, we would need to feed it now. So here is Betty, our brown rice starter, and same thing, we can see the line where it has risen and fallen down. And we know that it doubled in size, as we could see earlier. So it's quite great. And we can see that quilted effect on the top, where it's kind of like bumps at ridges and bumps. And when it starts falling down, those ridges and valleys will actually become more pronounced. So when you know that you've gone past that perfect spot of peak activity, that you'll see more of those ridges and valleys. So, and it smells actually still quite lovely. It's just starting to get hungry. If it was very hungry and had fallen all the way back down and was an old starter, then we would basically at that point say, okay, it smells a little bit sour or acidic, because it gets more acidic as the time goes on.
Okay, so let's go ahead and feed our starter. So let's give it a nice mix like we always do. And then we're going to begin to discard all but 30 grams of our starter. It's doing really well feeding it with this ratio, and it's continuing to mature. So I think it would be a good idea to keep it at this level for now. Once you're ready to keep it in the refrigerator, keeping 30 grams and giving it a feed is just the perfect amount that you can maintain your starter at the perfect level and only have to feed it once a week. So once you've discarded, add your 50 grams of brown rice flour and your 50 grams of water. And don't worry if you go over by 1 or 2, just fix that with adding more flour or water. And then, of course, you're going to give it a really good mix for at least 2 minutes. When you mix it for 2 full minutes, you can just see how the consistency completely changes. So here is after 2 minutes, this is the new consistency. Then we're going to clean down our sides, of course, as usual. Clean around the edges. Give it a smell and see that it smells quite lovely and yeasty and sweet. Then, of course, adjust our elastic and cover it up. So remember, you can bake with your discard now. I've put lots of ideas in the post below, so check it out and don't throw out your discard. And if you do make something, I'd love to see a picture of it in the comments. And we'll see you again later on when we'll feed our starters this evening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.